Hello everybody, welcome back to 30 for 30. How are you? If you're watching live, can you let me know in the chat? Can you hear me? Can you see me? So what part are we on? Part 26. And today we're going to deal with the important but often overlooked issue of presentation. Presentation, we can write all this great code, get data moving around files, but if it's not presented nicely for a client, then it's just not going to have the impact that we want it to have. And it's some kind of easy thing that a lot of people miss, particularly programmers, because we're not focused on, the human sides of problems, things like presentation. How are things going to look? So I wouldn't want to be handing this over to a client. I'd want to be putting better formatting on this report. We don't want to hand it over with default formatting. So we're going to look at how to do that and then how to integrate it into, let's get into the VBA developer here, Alt F11 shortcut, of course, then to integrate it into our main routine. Let's go into the functionality module, create category sheets. Yeah, we want to integrate it in here somewhere, or do we? Or do we want to integrate it into this routine? Maybe we want to separate it out, have a modular approach, and just call it from this routine. As always, we'll build it up from the simple ideas to the more complex ones. Make sure you download the download file, link in the description below this video, whether you're watching live or on replay. Download the download file. You're going to be learning the muscle memory in your fingertips to be able to use these techniques, create value for yourself, the people around you. 50 viewers today. This is big, guys. 50 viewers, 60 viewers means press ups. Hello to everybody in the chat. It is so good to see you today. It has been a privilege. It's been a privilege the past few weeks to be able to hang out with you. I'll be honest with you, I'm feeling pretty tired, but tired and happy, I'd say, because I've loved connecting with you, and I've had so many nice emails and comments from people like Frank, who I'll say hello to first. Welcome, Anup, some nice comments from you as well. I read them all and appreciate them. Adrian, welcome. VV, welcome. Great to see you again. Lee Williams is here today. Lee, have you attended every stream? I think you might have. Fantastic stuff. Phil is with us. Welcome, Phil. Jasvin is with us. I think Jasvin has attended every stream but one, Jasvin. I think Ian, 4 letters, is with us. Ian, 3 letters, is with us, coming into the chat at the same time, very confusingly. Welcome, guys. Maria is with us with an internet connection today. Welcome, Maria. It's good to have you. HD is with us. Joanna is with us. Cal is with us. Cal, is it your first live stream? Welcome. Klaus checking in with us. Welcome, Klaus. Shiva, Alistair. Peter Jones from Liverpool. Gusa from Spain is with us. I think that's everybody. If I missed you, welcome. And Ola and Clement down at the bottom there. Welcome, guys. So make sure you download the file. Work along with me. So I shouldn't have to tell you this now, guys. I really shouldn't have to take you through it step by step. I almost don't want to do it. I almost just want to leave you to it. But we want to do some formatting. So what are we going to do? Are we going to just jump into the VBA editor? No, we're not. How many times have you heard me say that in the past 3 weeks? So it's more about planning, conceptualization, and particularly sources of code. Where might this code come from for formatting? And we've already touched on this issue on the program. Formatting code tends to be quite kind of convoluted, complex. So it's a good idea to record it, recording code using the macro recorder and then tweaking it for our purposes. That was one of the key skills we covered in stream 5 or 6. So let's apply it now. Let's do some formatting. Let's go to the data sheet and let's just create, some reasonable formats here. So I'm going to go ahead, start the macro recorder, go to the whole view here, start the macro recorder. What do we have to bear in mind here? Well, let's make sure we start the macro recorder at the right time so we don't have reams and reams and reams of code. So I'm going to hit record macro here. And then formats, let's just say format report, something like that. Or let's say format test for the time being. But any kind of informative name will do. Informative means the name of the macro helps you understand what the macro does. Hit OK. And I can see in the bottom left corner of Excel, we've now got a stop symbol. When I hover the cursor over there, it says a macro is currently recording. And at the top, developer tab, I can see it now says stop recording. So I know that I'm recording now. So what might we want to do? I'm going to highlight these cells. I'm not a fan of Calibri, mainly because Calibri is the default font, and people, even if you looked through all the fonts, you know, evaluated them against each other and decided it was your favorite font, I still wouldn't use Calibri because it's the default font, and you want to show your customer you've taken some care over the presentation of the spreadsheet. So I recommend you change it. I typically use Arial, but there's some other ones I use as well. I typically use Arial, which is another common font, but you know, does the job and is not the default font usually. So we're going to change these to Arial. Let's change the font size as well. I'm going to go to 9 here. In fact, I'm going to go to 10. And then let's have some borders here. So Alt-H-O-E on the Windows PC. Hit Escape first, Alt-H-O-E. And then we get our formatting dialog box here. So I'm going to go to border. I like this look where we have the top and the bottom cell formatted only. Going to hit OK now. And additionally, I'm going to switch off the grid lines. So the grid lines, of course, are these gray lines that we always see in Excel. Switching them off can give us this clean look. So Alt-W-V-G on the Windows PC, we can see we've lost the grid lines now. So I think that's everything I want to do. So we go back to developer now. This is the critical thing you might forget. And we hit stop recording. And I think even just from those few actions we have, we'll have quite a lot of code. And there's some people making suggestions in the chat. The pronunciation of Arial, is it Arial? Arial? Who knows? Who knows the pronunciation? But you can, I'm not advocating this formatting as the best formatting. You can choose whatever formatting you think appropriate for this. But you should have generated some code. Now, where's the code going to go? Remember, if we fire up the macro recorder, generally Excel's going to go ahead and create a module, which is helpfully or unhelpfully is going to call module 1, module 2, module 3. So here we can see, whoa, here we can see all of the code that we've recorded here. Looks like a lot of code, doesn't it? So let's go through it and let's try to delete some code and maybe understand why there's so much code. It seems that you'll remember I changed the font size to 8 and then changed it back to 10. And you can see the numbers in the size property here. Every time you change the font size, it seems to record all of the other properties. So underline, for example, strike through. Has anybody ever used strike through ever? Let me know in the chat if there's an actual application for strike through where you have the text actually struck through. So what can we get rid of here? We've definitely got some repeated structures. I want font size 10, so I'm going to delete this one. And then, so now we're cleaning up code, and this is what you often have to do with the macro recorder. Delete this line of code. Do we want to do selection? Well, that would be direct referencing, and we prefer another kind of referencing, which is remote referencing, of course. So I'm going to delete all of this and the little comments we get at the beginning of the macro. Yeah, for some reason, when you use the macro recorder, Excel puts a little comment in the top. No particular idea why, but there it is. So we don't need the select command either. So it's looking a bit better now. What else have we got here? Okay, we've got formatting here to do with the borders. Okay. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think we'd get this much code. So this is all just for the borders. Okay, so we've got the top and the bottom here. Okay, Excel none, Excel none, Excel none. Right. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. This doesn't seem important. This is just saying no borders on the diagonal lines and on the left edge, I think. And the same here, I think. Okay. And then we don't need this select command at the bottom. And then we've got this line of code, which is to switch off the grid lines. Okay. And kind of intuitively, we can tell, that's a user-friendly piece of VBA. We can tell from just looking at the code, broadly speaking, what that code is doing. So we've managed to do some streamlining of the code there. We had quite a lot of code, didn't we? And don't worry, we're going to look at an alternative approach, which is not using the macro recorder and not using all of this kind of verbose code. I love this word verbose. The guy who taught me VBA always used this word verbose. It just means wordy. Too many words, like when somebody goes on about something and they don't stop talking and they just keep going on and on and on. And have you had that? Yeah, that's verbose. Right. I did promise myself I'll hit you up with some adverts today. So tomorrow we have a double bill. Yes, it's Monday, so we have Members Monday. If you enjoy the 30 for 30 sessions, you are going to love Members Monday, a weekly live stream with me. You get access to a file called the Members Monday Content Navigator that indexes all the content from the previous streams. You're going to get instant access to 21-hour streams and an index of all the topics, so you can go to whatever topic you want. The Members Monday Facebook group, and to be part of the community, support the channel, help move things forward. I've got big plans. We are just getting started here at Tiger. So if you want a double bill tomorrow, we'll do 30 for 30 followed by Members Monday. I would love it if you got involved. Right, what's kicking off in the chat? Yeah, Peter, this is a good one. Yeah, if you open the new macro module as you hit the new record button, so if you have the VBA editor visible as you're recording the code, you can see the code being recorded. Yeah, very kind of educational thing to actually see the code being generated there. Daniel says, I have used strike through in Word, but not in Excel. So there is a real world application for strike through. Very good. Yeah, strike through maybe for filling out forms. Yeah, thank you to Jasfin, View tab and Show for grid lines. And then a few other things. That's good stuff. Lee says, I would say that's the wife when I'm in the doghouse going on and on and on. Indeed. No, Peter, it's all good. It's all good. I love your approach to learning. 28 viewers and 9 likes. We had a kind of viewer surge there, and it suddenly went up to 55. Luckily not 60, but everyone's gone now. They were like, oh, it's just a guy being verbose. I'm going. That's what I heard them say. Back into the Excel file. So we've got a code here, but we're not just creating code for the sake of creating code. Let's see if we can get it working. I'm going to select a cell. And then, is this going to work? Because we've got this is a big with, end with statement. So with the selection, I've selected a cell. So are these things going to happen? Is the font going to change? Are we going to get borders? And will the grid lines disappear? I'm just going to bring them back briefly. So you can go to View, as Jasmine pointed out, View and tick grid lines. That's going to bring the grid lines back. So what happens when we execute this code? Click into the routine so you can see the cursor flashing in the routine. Hit the play button, and then we did have a cell selected there. Okay, does actually appear to work, and just from that very small example, it doesn't seem to be massively inefficient. Anyway, so it seems to work well enough. So we've managed to generate the code. We've managed to run the code. What problems have we got coming down the line? And I know some people in the chat would have anticipated this, as you progress through your coding career. When someone describes a task to you, you can anticipate what the difficulties are going to be. So what are the difficulties going to be with this task? Okay, yes, so we've managed to sort out the formatting thing. But what about, got a little fly here, but what about establishing the range to format? How about that? I mean, we can't get away from this. It's kind of a recurring theme in VBA development and in Excel generally, having control of range. Because we can't just say to Excel, okay, for each sheet, format between C4 and C42, because it's going to be a different range on each sheet. So can you see the problem here? So we've got the formatting code. Now we've got to establish position, and how might we do that? And I'm kind of doing this live, as always, really. So when is this code going to fit in? It's going to have to fit in, you know, down at the bottom here, once we've done all of the data transfer. And again, I'm benefiting from some of the annotations we've made here. But I'm just wondering if somewhere do we establish this, the size of the data set on the target sheet? I mean, kind of here we do. So I think the best approach is going to be to set up a separate routine. Yeah, probably to set up a separate routine to see if we can get this formatting done. And then we're going to call this routine from the main macro. You know, this is one possible approach. Anyway, I'm not saying it's the best approach. I think it's a good approach, and you might have kind of alternative approaches now. So say do formatting here. Okay, so again, planning, conceptualization. Again, seriously, you spend a lot of time doing planning and conceptualization. So from our building blocks, hopefully you've got your post-it notes still. What's going to help us here? Well, we're going to have to loop through all of the sheets. Again, we're going to have to loop through all of the sheets and put the formatting in. Right, what do you think? So what kind of loop is going to help us here? I'm just going to go and see what variables do we have here. Chris Sheet as worksheet. Okay. Yeah, what I'm being slightly wary of is having two variables with the same name. I'm going to say format sheet here as worksheet. Okay. So why format sheet? Because we've already got a variable called Chris Sheet here. And although I don't think that would be problematic because this variable has finished doing its stuff by this point, I don't think that would be problematic. But just to keep things clear, let's use a different variable name. Remember, we could use any variable name, you know, virtually unlimited choice of variable names, just make them informative. Then we're going to go for our typical for each loop setup. I'm going to say this workbook.sheets. And then next worksheet. No. Yeah, that didn't look right to me. Hopefully everybody is screaming at their monitors at home. So this should be the variable name, of course. Okay. And now what's our next issue here? Well, we don't want to format this sheet. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and clear the formats because this is getting on my nerves, the inconsistent formatting. How about this? Shortcut to clear formats on the Windows PC. Alt-H-E-F. F for Freddy is going to clear the formats. That's not ideal, is it? Really? I'm going to copy the formats up from here. Control C. And then holding down the Shift key, right arrow, down arrow, Control Alt V, and T. T for, obviously, T for formats. That's because F is taken for formulas. And then we've got the reasonably consistent formatting back. Alt W V G gets us the grid lines back. So we don't want to format the data sheet. We don't want to format the task sheet. So we did have we dealt with this issue before. You'll remember. Where is it? Somewhere up here. Somewhere we put a conditional statement in anyway to avoid the data sheet and the task sheet. Let's do it differently this way. Let's say if format sheet is it .index is more than 2 then, and if. Okay, so open the conditional statements and closed it at the same time to make sure we don't forget to do that later. And this is saying to Excel, if the third sheet or higher in the file. So that's another nice way for us to eliminate the task sheet and the data sheet. So again, we're making an assumption here, and you've got to communicate the assumptions to yourself, write them down somewhere in the file. I work on multiple projects at one time, so writing down notes is important. but also to your customer. Of course, if someone else is using the sheet, you've got to make sure they understand the assumptions you've made. But this should avoid the data sheet and the task sheet. And just for proof of concept here, let's have message box, then format sheet.name. So you should be familiar with this testing process now. I used message box, kind of test what's going on, hitting the F8 key. So the first sheet, nothing happens. The second sheet, nothing happens. And then the third sheet, you can see we're in the conditional statement and dog flashes up there. So we've managed to loop through the sheets, got our for each loop here. And then we put a conditional statement in that's only dealing with the sheets we want to deal with, i.e. the report sheets. Yeah, Phil says in the delete sheets macro. Where did that macro go then? Delete sheets. So if you've lost a macro in a workbook, you can go to macros and then go to delete sheets and edit. And yeah, it's right at the top of the file here. So this is an alternative mechanism for eliminating those sheets that we want to eliminate. And yes, so we've done the same thing 2 different ways, and you can appreciate the pros and cons of each. As always, there's rarely a definitively best way to do it, but there's pros and cons in each situation. So have both approaches in your toolkit. Yeah, anup.name, checking for name of the sheet, then apply if. Absolutely, this is good. Yeah, Ian says, yeah, this is a good point from Ian. Ian without an I. And Ian says, why not put the formatting in when the sheet is created? Yeah, because these report sheets are being created as we work through the report. We can see that in the VBA. So the reason I wouldn't do that is that we don't know how many entries are going to go into this sheet when the sheet is created. These entries build up in the sheet as we go through the code. So we don't really know how many entries are going to be in the sheet until the code has executed, unless we counted the entries in the database at the beginning of the code, which would be an option. But I think the way to maximize learning opportunity is to use some code here. Whoopsie daisy. Is to use some code here to define this data range. So we're looking at more position control here. Define this data range on each sheet. And it's something we've kind of done already. Let's go back to the zoomed in view. And yeah, we did some position control here. So again, we've got a difficult job to do. So we're thinking sources of code. Sources of code. Is it organic? Is it recycled? Is it recorded? Now in this case, can we recycle something that we know is kind of similar? This code helps us to with positioning. Yeah, specifically finding the next empty row here. So it's going to be, it's going to be kind of like this. We're certainly going to use some of these, some of this syntax, some of these concepts. So let's go ahead now. I'm going to just copy paste that in with the indentation, of course, using the tab key for the indentation there. Okay, and I'm going to use a variable here. Yes. So let's say format range. I'm going to use a string variable, and it will store an address. Okay, so if there's nothing in C4, then it means there's no data in the file. So if we just say does not equal C4, and I need the sheet variable name here as well. Is that right? Yes, I think so. Okay. So we're now saying if there is something in C4, i.e. if there's data on this sheet, then define data range. Okay. So final challenge today. This is a tough question. Hello to Utilizzo Professionale di Microsoft Office. Hello. How are you? Welcome. I think it's your first stream. Welcome in. Okay. Yeah, Cal, that's a good question. Can you ask me that at the end of the stream, Cal? Because I would like to answer that. So who can help us with this syntax? And I'm not asking for the whole syntax. You know, if you're a beginner and you're thinking, I have no idea how I'd even get started with that. Yeah, welcome to the club. It's often like that with Excel VBA. Go back to your building blocks. Yeah, maybe go back to the first few streams. What building block is going to help us here? We know it's to do with position control because we've got to define a range. And the specific building block, which is so useful, and we encountered in the last stream, you will continue to encounter in your VBA career, is range here. So we should be able to complete this now. So format range equals okay, let's see how we go. So format sheet dot range. Going to be some repeated syntax. Maybe we can look at getting rid of that. C4. So this is now we're here, like we're specifying the beginning of the range here. And then I'm just going to comment this out just to check I've got this syntax works. Not absolutely sure. But yeah, it does seem to work. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about the syntax where I'm connecting the variable to the range there. I wasn't absolutely sure about that. Format sheet dot range. Right, can I just say okay, with format sheet. Just want to introduce a with end with, as we often do when we're using range. That allows us to economize on the amount of code we need. Dot range and dot range C4 and dot range dot end Excel down and two brackets at the end, but we don't want C4 now. Now we want F4, of course. Okay, how about this? Okay, then let's have, let's just step through the code and see if this is going to work for us. So, very tidy little macro here, like a nice little challenge at the end of the course. Again, we've got multiple techniques working together to create beauty in Excel VBA. Variables, declaration of variables, just a place to store information that's going to assist us with the programming. Then we've got our object loop. So for each object in a collection. Then we've got a conditional statement to make sure we're only working with the right sheets. Then another conditional statement to make sure there's data on the sheets. And then finally defining a range for us to work with using range. So only what, 5, 6, 10 lines of code, something like that. But these techniques, when they start coming together and you're feeling the power now, are super powerful. Yeah, Alistair says, yeah, this is a really good point. So Alistair says, why don't you format the line when you add the line to the sheet? Yeah, this is a possible approach, and it means we don't have to mess about with defining ranges. The reason I wouldn't do that is every time you copy paste, it's quite a resource intensive thing for Excel VBA to do. So it's likely you'd add a lot of time to the execution of the macro because you'll be copy pasting for each line in the data set. Yeah, we've got 500 lines of data, something like that. I think that would add a lot of runtime to the macro, but you should try it. You should try it and see how it goes. Yeah, Peter says it's worth a test. Absolutely. Whereas with the approach we're following now, we're going to have to do the copy paste operation once for each sheet. So what's that? 8, 9, 10 times, which is significantly less than doing it for each line. But a good shout. And as always, there isn't a single best way to do it. I know I keep saying this. I don't want to sound, defensive or anything like that. That really isn't the point. The point is to get you thinking about alternative approaches, appreciating the pros and cons of each one. Right, so hitting F8 now. Have we managed to define this range? Okay, I think we need dot address here, of course. Yeah, because we've got a string variable here. So we need to say to Excel, I want the address of what we're talking about here, and store that in your string variable. A string is just a place to, is a text variable, of course. Hitting the F8 key again. Okay, and format range. Okay, the format range is in there now. Good. So the challenge would be to try to get the formatting done now. So I've helped you define the range to work with. So can you integrate the code you recorded? And for me, it's in module 1. Integrate this code to get the formatting done. Okay, so that's going to be your homework. Okay. Functionality. Yep. And then you've also got to think about, how do we integrate this into the main routine? So you're going to have to, at some point in the main routine, call do formatting. So again, we've got interaction between routines there. I'm going to save the file, Control S. And let me know, guys, any final questions today? But it seems like everyone's followed along pretty well. Kai had a good question. Yeah, I tried making a formatting procedure, but some data like tennis scores, which were entered as 6-2 or 6-4, ended up being formatted as dates, even if the scores originally were formatted as text. Yeah, Cal, I feel your pain. I really do feel your pain. I've had my struggles over the years with date formatting. Off the top of my head, what's the best way to deal with this? Off the top of my head, I would consider using a string variable here, maybe. If you use a string variable and make sure Excel understands 6-2 as a string variable, as a piece of text, that might mean that when it's entered into the cell, it's not changed into a date. But I'm not sure about that. It can be a nightmare working with dates. Another way to do it might be to put an inverted comma before. In fact, I'm going to try this now. So if you wanted to put 6-2 in, so you're putting something like 6-2 in, okay, it's coming out as a date. Okay, what if you put an inverted comma first? You can see the inverted comma, 6-2. Okay, this might be the way to do it, Kai. This might be the easy way. Put your inverted comma in there. That's what I mean by an inverted comma. It's an upside down comma. That could be a quick fix for you. This should now be storing as text. But let me know how you go with that. Any other questions then, please? Yeah, Lee says, today's stream, like most, will have to be watched again for the penny to drop for me. You know, I'm not surprised at all. I pretty much worked through a VBA task at the pace that I would work through it. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about if you're not feeling you're keeping up with this. As you know, what would I do if I wanted to understand this? Well, first, I'll go back and try to understand the context, the motivation. What are we actually trying to do? Then I'll do something like just literally delete this code. Delete it. Okay, without that code, do I understand it? Okay, we've got 2 variables there, and then we're looping through sheets. Okay, so I understand that much. Okay, so let's simplify again. If I delete this code, do I understand it? And then it might take you 5 or 10 minutes to understand this construct. Again, you see what I mean? You build from in to out or from out to in, trying to understand what's happening. That's the way to do it, Lee. That's the way to do it. And everybody else. And Peter's saying the same thing. Yeah, we didn't introduce anything new here. So, you know, you should be able to follow along. But as I said, always remember the purpose. You know, what's the point of this? The purpose is to create some neatly formatted reports. And to do that, we're going to have to loop through all the sheets and get the formatting into the right area using position control. Okay, Yeah, Alistair's right. Prefix to the score with an apostrophe, of course. Anup said few is too technical today. Don't worry, guys. I mean, we've only got about 2 or 3 streams left where we're going to do VBA. One of the other streams, I'm going to talk about real world applications. And then for the final stream, we might have some kind of celebration. Is that the right word? But we'll do something different the final stream. So we're getting, you get into, you're watching a coding professional doing coding live. So it's going to be difficult to understand, but stick with it. And Lee says, yeah, it's light Lego building blocks. Good stuff. Okay, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope lockdown life, is not treating you too badly. This is the kind of stimulation you need, guys. Get some physical stimulation, get yourself out for your daily walk, get your mental stimulation, get your emotional stimulation off your family, give someone a call, tell them you love them, whatever it might be. But one thing's for sure, I'll be here tomorrow, here in my man shed, waiting for you for part 27 of the 30 for 30 series. Take care, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.